So on the way over here, I passed by a gentleman's club,
Oh my.
and there was a sign on it that made me just guffaw. And it said "Welcome to Dreams," but they only had one E, so they put it really compact with the word "dreams," which you could hardly read separate from the sign.
It was sort of like the Devil's EA mixed together thing.
Yeah, it was that thing with the old English character. And then it was like "welcome." They didn't have an E in the welcome. Welcome to Dreams, and it was just the most broken thing I've looked at or read in a while. But it made me laugh.
I mean, that's not so bad, because their other option was spell welcome properly and have it say welcome to Drams.
And I wouldn't really. All right, well, I feel like they went with the better call, I suppose.
Yeah, let's start the episode. So, I'm going to tell you something. I'm very excited for this particular episode.
Now, why is that, Samuel?
Because we are finally making a technology podcast episode. And I am beyond excited because I get to talk about stuff and you just get to ask me questions because you are...
Now, before you leave, I just want to let you know it'll still be funny, but also informative and cool, and I'm just as excited as he is.
Because my reason for wanting to do this episode is because in my life, I have lots of old people in my life. Because I come from a Jewish family, and we have this nasty habit of living really long. And when you live really long, and you're Jews, you learn to assimilate really well. So when technology happens, you try to do your best to, get into it. So I am the person in my family, since I didn't become, an athlete, I'm the person in my family who knows about technology. So everyone asks me questions. And if you're listening to this when we recorded it, then you know that yesterday Apple launched a ton of new stuff. So we're just going to explain that, and Rosser will...
And obviously, because I don't expect you to be up to speed with several years of Jewish technological studying, but so I'm going to be asking very down-to-earth, not technological questions the average consumer would like to know about these new products,
and we're gonna
be informed.
We're gonna spread beyond Apple a little bit. Like, we're gonna be talking about smartwatches in general and what you need to know should you get a smartwatch.
What's the point?
There's a lot of interest. Yeah, we're gonna make the case for smartwatches, but before we get into Apple Watch, I want to talk a little bit about this new MacBook, because they launched a new MacBook yesterday. It comes in silver, the regular MacBook silver. Mm-hmm. It also comes in a dark gray. And since Apple's getting on this train, it also comes in gold.
Oh my god, why?
Because gold, from what I've heard, it doesn't look as bad as like the gold iPhone does, which I own a gold iPhone, shame me, but it's a good looking gold. It's not a bad gold. But,
I see.
And so, I mean, the way to talk about this MacBook, you have to talk about the MacBook Air. In 2011, Apple made what many consider to be...
A piece of paper.
They made what many consider to be the best Mac they've ever made for a personal computer. Obviously, if you're a gamer or a photo editor or something like that, this is not the best Mac ever. If you're a gamer, you don't use a Mac. But if you're just a college student, someone whose only computer tasks are making Word documents, surfing the web, maybe doing some photo stuff, this was the best computer you could possibly buy for these things. Because it had flash storage, it got rid of the optical drive, it was super thin. This computer, it's one of the best selling notebooks ever. So Apple had to improve on this computer, and they're trying it with this new MacBook. So the MacBook Air still exists, but this new MacBook, it is stupid thin. Like, it is the most thin thing you'll ever see. It also doesn't have a fan. They use the Intel Core M processors, which are fanless. And that's going to be interesting to see how it performs, because other computers that have used this processor, not the best computers. You can ask it. Most people use them these M cores struggle to perform in some areas.
They also took the fans out because if they left them in, the computer would start floating upwards and towards the air.
Yes.
And that was a huge design flaw, so they took them out.
They didn't want the Willy Wonka bubble factory effect to happen.
Didn't want that.
Yes. So this new computer, I looked at it. They also, the big thing, like, they took out every single input, and they went with what is going to become the new standard, USB-C. Have you heard of USB Type-C?
No! What does USB stand for, Samuel? And much more importantly, what does USB-C stand for?
I don't know what USB stands for, actually. Do you?
It's a Universal Serial Bus.
Yeah, so the Universal Serial Bus, which is, the bus of just getting data from
At least I'm pretty sure. Let me check that.
Getting data from one point to another point. So everyone knows the USB port. USB 2 and 3, they look very similar, but USB Type-C, it's going to become the new standard. If you have an iPhone 5, it's about the size of the charge port on your iPhone 5, and it's also super duper adaptable as a chip. So you can run HDMI through it and power your computer at the same time and have a flash drive all plugged in if you have the right adapters for it. So there's only one port on this computer, and it's crazy. So that's probably the reason to not buy it now. Wait a year until it becomes more standardized in other computers. But expect most laptops to start ditching the other ports in exchange for USB-C ports because it's just more adaptable as a port. It can do more. You can plug an external display into it and also move files into it at the same time.
That's pretty cool.
Like, that's how adaptable this thing is. So that's about Macs. If you want to think if you should buy it, I mean, ask yourself this. If you're going to get a 13-inch MacBook Air versus this MacBook, the Air doesn't have a Retina display. You're going to spend a little more, but you'll get a little more processing out of it. But if really all you're going to be doing is watching movies, Netflix, web browsing, documents, if that's all you're going to be doing, this is really the best option as a computer for you yet. There's really nothing better. That's about Macs. You want to start talking about the watch now?
So
let's do the question answer. You play.
I'd like to be the brainless consumer.
You play brainless consumer. So instead of me preaching about this thing,
because he will and can for days if you let him.
Instead of me preaching about this thing, because it'll be boring, you throw questions at me and I'll answer them.
So here, I'll play. My father has recently been very curious about iWatches and the whatnot, the various lingos and the technology and the blah, whatever, the fancy things about newer technology that's just coming out right now. And with all these things about fancy watches that do computer things, I will try to ask questions from a standpoint of someone who knows little to nothing about them. So, Samuel,
yes,
what exactly is the watch for? What does it do? Why is it better than my normal watch?
So I'm going to answer that not as an Apple Watch specific question, but as a smartwatches in general question.
Yeah.
The purpose of a smartwatch is really it's a notification tray. So if you have any apps, news apps, email, texting, phone calls, and a smartwatch is a way for you to get those notifications on your wrist. You can then read those notifications and then decide the proper way to respond to them. So if I have a Pebble, which is the most basic one, but it's also arguably the best one.
And by one, he means smartwatch.
Yeah,
it's
best,
not associated with other things. It's its own separate smartwatch. It's pretty fancy looking.
Well, I mean, so the Pebble needs my phone. So if I get a text message from you, and let's say I hate you, and I don't want to touch my phone, I can just, if I get a text message from you, I can just get rid of that text message, and I don't have to look at it again. Mm-hmm. And it'll actually remove it from my queue of notifications on my phone.
Wait, so Samuel, are you saying you need a phone for these smartwatches to function?
Yes, that is the key. There's two smartwatches right now that you don't need a phone for. Will.i.am makes one, and it's a piece of shit. You can look it up. It's called the Pulse, and it's bad. Everyone who's touched it says it's bad. Just a bad thing. Don't get it. LG makes one that runs Firefox WebOS. Remember WebOS?
No.
Firefox tried to make a software platform and it failed miserably, and it was funny. So WebOS is trying to make a comeback, and this LG watch runs WebOS, and it also has LTE on it, so you can do certain web browsing stuff on it. So it's like having another phone if you don't want a phone at all. It's weird.
So Samuel, why would I drop another ridiculous amount of money on this device if I already have a phone?
So yeah, so this is another smartwatch in general question. It's like, that's the best reason for it. It's like, it depends on your lifestyle. If you're the type of person who gets lots of notifications in a day and just needs to look at them quickly to see if you need further action, because that's the thing about the Pebble. If I get a text message from you, I look at it and I can decide if I need to reply to that or not. And then if I don't need to reply to it, I can just shoo it away, and then I don't have to look at my phone. But let's say it's important, I then need to pull my phone out to take further action. And that's where we start to delineate from your generic Pebble watches, smartwatches that have to weirdly hack the system. So Pebble, you need to have Pebble's app on your phone, and then that curries all the notifications over.
So I have another question, Samuel.
Yeah.
Just how much dough are we talking about to pick me up one of these sweet puppies?
So a smartwatch.
Oh God, I just said that. Go on.
Sweet puppies. Pebbles start as low as $100. And that is just generic notifications come in. You decide what you want to do with them. You can load apps onto it. You can have custom watch faces. There's a lot of cool stuff in the Pebble, but it doesn't go much further than notifications. I can also hang up on a call or accept a call, and I can control my music with it. But that's pretty much all a Pebble can do. So that's when you get into these brand-specific smartwatches. Specifically, we're talking the Samsung Gear watches, which only work on the Galaxy phones, which you have, Rosser. The Android Wear watches, which work on any Android device. And then the Apple Watch, which is the new thing. And these go a step beyond where you can respond to the notifications on your watch. So if you get a text message, if I get a text message from you now on my Apple Watch, I can actually respond to it without ever pulling my phone out. And that's where the Apple Watch goes above the Pebble. And that's the same thing with Android Wear and all that.
So I have two questions and a reiteration of the earlier question.
How much dough?
The first question is, why is there a gigantic crack in your ceiling? I feel like the ceiling is going to collapse on me at any second.
Okay, so we'll break apart. We'll break apart for watches completely. When we first bought this house, this was a scary place where we are now, because this is a separate apartment from the house.
You have to remember, I felt so unsafe in this home the last episode, because this is the same place we recorded the previous episode featuring Graham Latterman. I felt so unsafe in this household upon entering it that I checked every potential place for murderers, even the small cabinets in the kitchen.
Yeah, no. So this was scary. Before we painted it, it was like there were splinters in the floor. Like it was. I did not like coming up here. Whenever my mom sent me up here, and we had tenants here who were like crazy tenants. Like one of them demanded that she has a parking space, and we were like, no, it's our garage. Well, I want a parking space. We had to kick some people. We had to evict some people from this place and eventually fix it up. I mean, this is just, it's a loft that we have that we really use. Like, my dad stores his treadmill up here, but he never uses it. Anyway.
Okay. Back to my reiteration of the question.
Yeah.
How much money does it cost?
Yeah,
because you didn't say that at all.
Yeah. I mean, I answered this. So the Pebbles will cost you $100 or $200, depending if you want the plastic or the more expensive steel version. Android Wear watches have about the same price range, $150 going up to the Moto X, which is $300. And Android Wear is interesting because Google's a much more open platform, so there's a ton of Android Wear watches, but all of them do the same thing. You can get notifications, you can respond to notifications, you can have data pushed to your watch, and there's a few watch apps. So if you want to order pizza, there's a pizza app on your Android Wear. But they still require your phone. But the difference with Android Wear is that you can talk to your phone because it's a more direct link to the platform. And the Apple Watch basically does the same thing, except it costs all the money. And
so how much am I looking at
for
if I wanted to pick me up one of them fancy doohicles?
An Apple Watch?
Yes.
An Apple Watch, the price...
Since I know the majority of our listeners here probably have iPhones.
Yes, the price range of an Apple Watch is $350 to $17,000.
Holy creeping Christ, Samuel, that's a lot of money. I don't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to drop $17,000 if I already have a phone.
Yeah, that's...
Am I going to pay that much money so I can not remove something from my pocket?
So that's where we get to the other thing about Apple Watch. There's 3 distinct, what Apple calls collections of the Apple Watch. So if you're a poor person and you want the Apple people to spit on you when you go into the store, you get what's called the Apple Watch Sport. And that'll cost either $350 or $400. And $350 gets you a 38mm watch, and $400 gets you a 42mm watch, which is diagonally. So it's a small watch or a slightly bigger watch. And it has... That's the weird thing about the Apple Watch. Each collection doesn't have more functionality than the last. It's just what materials is the watch made out of. So if you get the Sport, you get the ability to use Siri on your watch to respond to notifications, to use watch apps. Apps are made by developers, and there's weird hacks beyond them. So that's the Apple Watch Sport, and you only get one type of band. It's a flimsy rubber sport band.
Are you saying you pay for the materials of the watch
Yes.
as opposed to just the watch's function?
Well, that's the next step up. If you get... So the Apple Watch Sport is made of aluminum and ion glass, which is... it's strong glass, but it's not what the next Apple Watch up is. And there's just the regular Apple Watch, which is what most people want but won't be able to get. And that starts at either $550 or $600.
Okay, I would like to pause this for the benefit of my father, who will probably heavily consider spending that much money on something he doesn't need.
So let me explain.
Dad, please.
Let me explain, Mr. Martinez. I'm talking directly to Russell's father now. The difference between Apple Watch and Apple Watch Sport, when you upgrade to Apple Watch, you're going from aluminum to stainless steel, and the glass is going from Ion X glass, which is a weirdly filtered glass, to a piece of sapphire crystal. And that's the difference in materials.
Oh my god.
So the watch case itself costs either $550 or $600, and it gets more expensive as you add different bands to it. So there's leather. So you can either go with the sport band that they give you, or you can upgrade to what's either 3 types of leather bands, which cost $150, or a Milanese loop, which is many metal links that all wrap around, and you can adjust it infinitely, and it looks really pretty, or a traditional stainless steel link bracelet, which costs $450. So an Apple Watch regular can go from $550 to $1,000 because that link bracelet costs $400.
That's a load of baloney, Samuel. That's stupid. Why would I pay that much money for something that is just merely an extension of my phone's original function?
I mean, it gets you back to the question of why would someone buy a regular watch to begin with? Because the time is on your phone. Apple's trying to make itself a jewelry brand. All these other smartwatches, Android Wear, Pebble, they're all for the nerdy people who want a gadget. Apple's trying to make itself a jewelry brand. So these high-end Apple, and we'll get to the edition later because that's bananas, but the regular Apple Watch going up to $1,000, that's about how much you can expect to spend on a regular watch.
Well, let's go ahead and get to the edition, Samuel. What god would allow Apple to sell a watch for $10,000?
It's made of gold, and that's why.
And that's the only difference, right, Samuel? There's no difference in functionality that you're paying for $10,000.
Yes, and
you're just selling yourself to Apple.
That's why I'm saying, if you're considering buying the edition, don't. Because here's the difference. People say $10,000 for a watch, that's ridiculous. It's not. $10,000 is what you can expect to spend on a really expensive watch. Like, your high-end Rolexes cost about that much. Your high-end Omegas cost about that much, etc., etc. So $10,000 for a watch, that's what you can expect to spend. The difference is, if you buy a high-end Omega or a high-end Rolex for $10,000, that watch is going to last you forever. You can give your Rolex Like, my dad is going to get his Rolex from his father, who got it from his father before him. So a Rolex will last a very, very long time. An Apple Watch, it's made of 18 karat gold, so that's where the value comes from. But an Apple Watch is a piece of technology. Doesn't matter who's making it, technology degrades over time. So if you buy a $10,000 Apple Watch, after 3 or 4 years, it's not going to work anymore because it's a piece of technology.
So, don't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask a question there. I swear to God, if you buy the edition, I will be very upset. I can totally understand people who like watches and people who think collecting watches is a cool thing. I don't think that's not a cool thing.
Those watches last, though. That's the difference.
Yeah, you can use those. The functionality for these will eventually die out, and although it'll be like maybe exceptionally cool for like a few years, it's like, oh, you're one of those like 10 people who has the edition.
And Apple can afford to make, because they said this at the keynote, they're doing these in limited quantities, so they're only going to make a few thousand of them. The gold ones. The regular Apple Watches are going to be mass produced as hell. But so you're only going to get a regular. So you're only getting a few thousand made, and they're only going to be sold in and I quote, select locations, which means New York, Los Angeles, maybe Chicago, maybe a few other cities in the U.S. But these editions are only going to be sold in Apple stores, and they're only going to be sold in the major cities of the countries that they're sold in. So if you're living in New York, congratulations. But like us in Atlanta, we're probably not getting the edition.
But then again, if you're dumb enough to buy a $10,000 watch that'll die after 4 years, I'm sure you won't mind dropping the extra money to get a plane ticket from wherever you are to go buy it.
Yeah.
Because I know people are going to buy the edition, and Apple will ensnare and enslave your wallet yet again. But I really can't advise it. And go buy like a watch that'll work for the rest of your life and other people's lives instead. Because those are cool watches.
I'm going to answer the next question before you even ask it, which is, should you buy an Apple Watch? And I'm going to say this.
Actually, my next question was something different.
Oh, really?
But sure. So, Samuel.
Yeah.
Further on the concept of their functionality, do these watches have a camera?
No. You can...
No.
They don't.
Then how do I take selfies with my iWatch?
That leads us to the next point. Apple... So the next point, it's like, of the should you buy it. You can use... There's an app on your Apple Watch, so it's like, if you're using your iPhone as a camera, you can use your Apple Watch as a viewfinder for your iPhone. So let's say you have your iPhone mounted up on a camera mount, because people buy these things, and they want to get the shot in. You can use your Apple Watch, you can zoom in the photo and whatnot, and then click a button, and then it'll take the picture of you and the people you're with, which is a cool thing to do.
That's nifty.
Yeah, so it's like it's a viewfinder, and that's a good function for it. But there's no camera on the Apple Watch, mostly because there are smartwatches you can buy that have cameras on them, but no one's really found a use for it. And the Apple Watch has like fitness stuff, but I'm going to get to this point, because it's the should you buy it point. Apple products historically take 2 generations to hit their stride, really. Like, remember the iPhone? The first iPhone was a piece of garbage, because the next iPhone had 3G, where you can like browse the web on your phone without being hooked up to Wi-Fi. The first iPad weighed all the pounds, and then it had a lot of the pounds taken off with Gen 2. So this is every Apple product. So, and like Johnny Ive was even quoted saying, it's like, this watch isn't everything we wanted it to be because the technology was too limited. Mm-hmm. So future generations of the watch are something you want to watch out for.
They'll either make the newer ones more affordable, or they'll make the older ones more affordable, or the newer ones will just be like actually worth the money you're putting into it, instead of dropping a ton of money for a thing you don't need right now, Dad.
So we'll go back to the Mr. Martinez. We'll get back to this point.
Please.
There is no added function between the levels of the watch. It's just how nice is it. So if you want the Apple Watch Sport, but it's like it doesn't come with a leather band, you can buy the extra leather band with your Apple Watch Sport and just slap that on there if you want the leather band. Because the bands are interchangeable between products. It's just, it doesn't come with it. So if you really want an Apple Watch, don't get the Edition because you're dumb. And hold off on the Apple Watch regular. Get the Apple Watch Sport if you really, really want one, because in a few generations, when you decide to upgrade, it's going to hurt a lot less. So here's my advice. Get the Apple Watch Sport now. If you want a leather...
If you do at all.
If you want one at all, which... If my recommendation, really, get a Pebble if you're an iPhone person. Because that's an open platform, and it'll get better over time. If you're an Android person... Now might be the time for you to get an Android Wear or a Pebble, because Android Wear, it's the same as the Pebble. The software is advancing really fast, and there's a lot of good-looking Android Wear watches out there now. The Moto 360 is a good example. So get it if you really want one and you're an Android person, go for it. If you're an Apple person, my advice is if you really, really, really want one, get an Apple Watch Sport. If you want another band, buy the extra band, and then in a few generations, when you're ready to upgrade, then get the regular Apple Watch. Resist the regular Apple Watch, though, as much as you want that stainless steel. So,
Please, God.
Just, resist.
Also...
Get the Sport.
I had another question about all this, but I'm trying to remember what it was. It was a good question. It was, No, I can't remember it. Whatever. Move on.
You want to do free plug party now?
Actually, I'd like to use this as a transition to talk about social media, because
yeah.
obviously... No, wearable technology. That was it.
Yeah.
Then we'll talk about social media later.
Google Glass.
So with other technology, I remember I'll sit up now. I've been sitting up and down. Oh my God, the blood rushing from my head. I've been laying down on the couch this entire time.
Lean more into it.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna dial the gain. This is gonna sound really bad, and I'll just cut it out.
Okay. So
Okay, lean in.
basically, what's going on is back in second grade, I remember we watched a video on VHS about this man who lost his eyes somehow in this firecracker accident, something like that, some fireworks thing. Probably didn't happen. I can't remember. We watched a video about a dude losing his eyes in some freak accident, and then eventually he got these replacement eyes that were very much in beta, which were like bionic eyes, which would let him like zoom in and like change his view things and all this other cool stuff. And I didn't know if this was being made up or if this was like actually legit, because I was like ready to like stab out both of my eyes so I could see like Predator, because that'd be so cool. But like I just remember seeing all this and thinking it was the coolest thing ever. But as I grew up, I realized having more like embedded technology or like wearable technology, which seems to be the next step in this direction, I'm wondering if all this will even catch on to a degree. And I know that's what people said about the internet and like everything, but I think it's definitely worth considering is like, I think wearable technology is definitely something that seems more questionable than other advancements that we've made recently.
And I think that's a good point, because like no one's made the case, and this isn't just as an Apple thing. This is everyone who makes a smartwatch. Mm-hmm. No one's been able to make the case for why do you need to buy this. Mm-hmm. I'll admit, having the Pebble and being able to see the notifications on the wrist, that's convenient, but I could do without it.
Yeah.
I have days where I don't wear the Pebble and I'm fine, but I like having it. And that's the case with really every smartwatch. It's nice, but you don't like need it.
It's very much a peripheral thing, and they tend to be very expensive due to the structure.
Yeah. People made the case for like the iPad, like, oh, you need an iPad. Really, it's you need either an iPad or some other computer, because computers got easier to use where you can interchange them with an iPad.
Mm-hmm. I think it's definitely a more questionable branch of technology and other things like that. But I'd also...
Google Glass is a great example.
Yeah.
So Google started Project Glass, and they had it, and it was there. And people were like, oh, this is going to be the future, man.
Yeah.
And then it happened, and they started selling it for $1,500.
Right.
That was the first thing.
Which is crazy.
Then all this legislation started getting passed, where people were like, oh, Like, people actually got beat up because they were recording, like, they went into a bar with their Google Glass, and the little green light was blinking, and people were like, stop recording me, and like breaking people's Google Glass, to where people who own Google Glass started, like, societies and support groups for people who've been bullied.
Oh my god.
And then you actually saw people with Google Glass, you're like, you kind of look like a dork.
Yeah.
Like a dork, man. Why are you wearing that?
As cool as that technology is, I don't see a point where it'll stop looking dumb.
Yeah.
I'm sure eventually we'll have, like, contacts or something that'll let us do the same thing, but, like, as long as you wear it as an extension of your face, and in order to use it, you have to say, "Okay, Google," in the loudest, most nerdy voice you possibly can, to let the whole venue you're in know that you purchased this device, and you need to scream to the world that you paid good money for this crap.
Okay, Google, walk the darkness.
God, it's so... Couldn't you... Google shots at you, like, why couldn't you choose, like, a less dumb phrase?
Okay, Google.
Okay, Google, let's do it. It sounds like it's friggin' Yu-Gi-Oh, man. It's like... Okay, Google, you activate my trap card. Ah! And you're being loud.
Did I tell you I tried the first 2 seasons of Yu-Gi-Oh are on Netflix, and I was like, ooh, nostalgia. So I started watching it, and I was like, oh, this is really bad.
I remember back in the day when I watched Yu-Gi-Oh, and like there was this crazy combo that this one dude did, and like I got the cards for it, and they actually had like the combo did not work. They literally made it up for the purpose of the show. They're like, oh, I've had this monster on the turn for on the field for 5 turns. Now you lose the game. And I'm like, I look at it and it's not that at all, and
no, because
stupid.
Yu-Gi-Oh, they had to first take a Japanese translation, then 4 kids had to dub it, but they also had to change it to make it a children's program. Mm-hmm. So like, there's this one episode where there's this guy and he's pretending to be a person. And there's a villain who's pretending to be a good guy, and they're talking to us like, "Hey, what's going on, guy?" And then in his inner monologue, he's like, "Those fools have no idea who I really am."
Oh yeah. God, Yu-Gi-Oh is so guilty of that. It's gross.
I got to that, and I was like, "Oh, right, this was terrible. Goodbye." Heart of the cards.
Ugh. That one scene that was so. I watched like the first episode with not too many. A couple of my friends the other day. And it was, oh God, we were like throwing up with laughter. It was just really a sad time.
Do you want to do free plug party and then social media?
Sure, yeah.
Let's do free plug party. You go first.
So the first thing is that we did actually receive money from some of you people, which is, oh my God, it touches me to my core.
2 people, Grant L. and Matt V.
Matt V gave us money, but didn't have anything to... anything that wasn't stupid to tell us to say.
I think he wanted us to praise him for his Smash abilities. So you just want to say...
Yeah, he's bad, whatever.
No, he gave us money. I have to say. So I just want to say, Matt V, you're the best Smash player to ever walk the earth. When you walk down the street, women just look at you and they look at your thumbs and are like, those are the thumbs that brought down the world of Smash.
But he gave us money. Also, in terms of donators, Grant L was our first donator. So, party, yeah, that was pretty great.
And Grant L said to us that he wanted us to talk raccoons.
So we will talk about raccoons momentarily. Hey, Samuel. Wouldn't you think it'd be funny if raccoons had their big poofy tails on a place other than their butt?
Yeah.
That'd be funny, like on their shoulder blades, and they had like 2 of them. God, that'd be really goofy.
You know what does have a big poofy tail? Some cats. Let's talk about cats instead.
No, we already did this.
Aww.
But you know what raccoons really like to do?
They like to eat garbage.
They like to eat garbage. And... Yeah. Things we always find in the garbage are like broken pieces of wood or like old heirlooms or like some Christmas gift you really hated or just rotten fruit specifically.
Yeah.
Apples!
This is the
don't buy an iWatch. Please, God.
That's the other thing. They've stressed so much. This is not the iWatch. It's the Apple Watch.
Whatever, dude. I don't care. I know I've been calling it an iWatch, but it's like at McDonald's when you have to just call everything that's there a Mc whatever it is.
You
like,
can't-
hi, can I get a McBurger with some McFries and a McMedium McSoda? That'll be $5, please.
And Apple gets so mad when people call it iWatch. It's like you can't.
It's the Apple Watch.
You can't brand all of your mobile devices whatever and not expect us to call this thing iWatch.
Yeah,
really.
That is dumb. Like, it makes me wonder what else they're gonna. I guess because their services they've branded with like. No, that's not true either. I was gonna say Apple Pay is Apple,
but that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's their payments.
But like iCloud and iTunes, and then it's like
everything was
It's the Apple Watch, guys. Why don't you guys just adjust?
And I say this to you, Apple. You can call it Apple Watch if you make it not need a phone. If it doesn't need a phone, then it's the Apple Watch.
Bottom line, raccoons are not a good subject for podcasts.
So you wasted $5.
I appreciate your support, but I don't know what else to talk about. Like, hey, I saw a raccoon like in my garbage one time.
Hey,
that's shocking.
My uncle shot a raccoon this one time.
Wow!
Wow!
How cool and unique! What a great animal to have.
So I'm just gonna say this to you. First of all, it was a waste of your money, but I'm not giving it back to you. Sorry. It's.
No, we appreciate your support,
yes.
Grant L. We really do.
Yes.
I just think podcasts are a wonderful world, and raccoons do not fit coherently in them. So here's the deal. Here's my next.
We need to say if you.
Do I need to plug something now?
We need to plug this first. If you would like us to say whatever you want us to say on the podcast,
that isn't raccoons.
You can go to Patreon.com. You can look up Unwatchable and give us $5, and we will say whatever you want. We also have other rewards, which I'll talk about later.
As long as it's not very offensive.
That's the end of the Patreon plug. We'll talk a little bit about what else you can do there at the end of the show. Okay. What's your plug?
What's
your not paid plug?
What was that? Oh, God, there was something I was really impressed with the other day. God. No, you go first.
Okay. I want to plug. I'm going to start plugging companies that I want to sponsor us. How about that? We'll give them free promotion.
That's bold. There's nothing they can do to stop us from advertising them.
Yes. Okay, so...
Haha, we win, kind of, not really.
If you're like me, you shave a lot, and you don't like that you have to shave a lot, but you have to do it because you look gross with facial hair. Aaron E. See? if we don't use their last names, we can just throw it out there. Anyway... There are some people who don't look good with facial hair, so if you need to have facial hair, you should shave. But shaving's really expensive. Blades cost a ton. Well, you should use the service I use called...
So does hepatitis C treatment. Sorry, go on. They cured that now, by the way. They cured hepatitis C. That's my plug. Hepatitis C is curable. It's expensive as balls,
if
but
you
it's
have Hep C, use your Obamacare and get cured.
Oh my God, it is so curable.
No, so if you want to
thanks medical science.
If you want to be able to shave for not a lot of money, there's a subscription service called Harry's. Get it, Harry's? It's a shaving company. They send you for like $15 a month. You can get blades in the mail and shaving cream every month or every other month, however often you want it. And these blades, it feels like a straight razor, kind of like that's how close to shave it is. Mm-hmm. So that's just my plug.
I feel like eventually, if we ever pick up steam with this podcast and we start getting advertised,
does Steam sponsor podcasts?
No. If we start picking up steam, like movement, and like we get bigger, I think eventually once you have sponsors, this will just become the sellout plug party.
Yes, the sellout plug party,
where it's this designated time to just interrupt your lovely content with our money.
We'll work sponsors in with the stuff we actually appreciate. Anyway, so we're plugging hepatitis C curing, a shaving company, plus people who gave us $5.
Pretty much. Thanks, y'all. We appreciate your support.
We really do.
Something viewers like you.
Yes, thank you.
I'd now like to talk about social media.
Oh boy.
So, something I think is very interesting is that we've seen a lot of, what was it? There's been a lot of people installing like dash cams now on their cars or whatever, or they'll start filming whenever they see something going down. They'll start filming whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I feel like to a certain extent, whenever there's something crazy happening, their first thought is to record it and let the world know that it happened.
Yeah.
On the way here, a water main had burst, which caused a lot of traffic, and a lady that we passed by, who was like sitting there at the intersection, even though the light was like green, and she could have been going, she was on her phone filming the water main. Wait, like really? Spouting water. Yeah, that girl we turned left next to. So she was holding up the whole thing just so she could film it. I think it's also very interesting with concepts like Snapchat specifically. I can open up my story, and I can open up like recent updates to stories, and I can just turn my volume up and get updates from people all over, whatever they're doing, everything else, constant filming, constant letting me know what's going on in their life, why it's funny. I'm guilty of this too. My father recently had surgery, and
he posted on Snapchat.
I posted a Snapchat of a picture of my dad because he looked really goofy in that whole thing.
Birdman starring Ricardo Martinez.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, I think we have a weird obsession with filming ourselves and letting ourselves be aware that something's going on. But what we don't keep in mind is that this is what other places did too, like since the beginning of like time, you know? Cultures like Rome and like other places, you know, whatever else. I just think like
China.
Whatever. We've been recording stuff since forever. And the reason why we know they exist and what they believed in is because people have been writing down and doing what they do so they can contribute to future generations and future societies. It's almost as if, in fact, we know that we're going to die someday, which is inevitable, but we know we're going to die at some point, and so everything we do relies on feeding the future generations with information, at least information at its core, which I think is very interesting. We don't really lose a lot throughout the years, and I think it's going to be very difficult to not know what's been going on these past few years, because we have been constantly filming ourselves and constantly voicing our opinions with things like Twitter or Facebook, constantly saying what we believe in, able to say what we want, do what we want, so we can know the general mentality. Whoops, hiccup. The general mentality of people as time progressed.
I think the thing that leads up to this is the University of Oklahoma scandal. With stupid, because that was someone on the bus. I assume it was like someone who didn't like what was going on, filmed the chant, which apparently is a thing. This Sigma Alpha Epsilon,
yes,
right?
SAE.
Yeah, SAE. This particular fraternity at this school has been doing forever. 3 hours ago today, Tuesday, March 10th, the Oklahoma University, they have expelled 2 students who said, quote, took leadership in the roles of the racist chant that was caught on video.
Interesting.
So, yeah. I mean, and I watched that video, and it was like
very racist and awful.
It was horrific, both like from a human rights standpoint and also musically.
Yeah.
To add a light, because it's like
add a light tone thing to a horrible subject.
Yeah, like they took the "if you're happy and you know it," but they also
but they added a lot of racism and horror. They
didn't even keep the tempo.
And that's the big issue here.
If you're gonna be racist, keep the tempo, motherfucker. If you're gonna parody racist, I'm not gonna censor that because I think you can call racist mother effer.
Yeah, you can. Because people like that are legitimate scum of the earth.
Like the Westboro Baptist Church. I hope terrible things happen to all of them, but when they parody a song to make it terrible from a human rights standpoint, they keep the tempo.
Yeah, I think like I'm glad that the university took such swift action and expelled these people. And I know this is definitely a risky thing to say because it's like obviously no one here disagrees with me except for like Westboro Baptist Church maybe.
They're not listening to this.
I'm glad they acted so swiftly and like immediately took down the entire house and told everyone to get out.
Yeah, that's
wonderful. Good on them. That shows
most colleges like to cover that stuff up.
Yeah,
like, they are swift to. throw a blanket on that.
And I'm glad they just got rid of it and
Yeah.
wouldn't have that crap, because this is the 21st friggin' century. We should start, like, appreciating each other as human beings.
Yeah.
Sorry, I might as well, like, I know that's like an obvious thing, and there wasn't really much point in me saying that. I might as well just said, hey guys, ISIS is bad, because they are, you know? It's like, we know that, and I take no risk in saying that, but I think the thing to gain from this is that they acted so quickly, and they acted so swiftly, and
good on you, Oklahoma University.
Yeah, great way of dealing with it. Racist people will probably all die out eventually. I think it'll just stop perpetuating itself.
I mean, pretty soon we're gonna be like, oh, these darn, like it's like, you know, like mixed race couples are becoming more and more of a thing, just because, like, who cares? Eventually, people are gonna start. The mixed race couples thing will be so common that people will start being prejudiced against people who don't have a mixed race relationship. Oh, these darn samies.
Eventually, I think, like,
white on white relationships will be bad for some reason.
God.
You have to marry outside.
Quick,
That's a terrible thing to think about, but Lord,
I love mixed race. How many minorities we fall into.
I love mixed race couples. You are beautiful, and your children are even more beautiful.
True.
God, have you seen mixed race babies? They are so pretty.
Yeah, very true. Yes. Honestly,
yeah,
it's the best.
Yeah,
keep doing what y'all do.
Good job.
Good job.
Good job.
You're doing the. What was it? National Geographic had a thing not too long ago about, like, what would happen over the course of, like, 200 years as long as races keep, like, mixing, essentially. And,
mixing,
like,
or not mixing?
Still mixing. And, like, until we kind of have one consistent race.
And
it looked really cool.
Yeah.
And it looked very pretty. And I was very happy for 200, like, not 200 years, but, like, several generations of people to happen so that eventually we all look really pretty and cool.
I feel like this is leading to dog breed. You want to talk about dog breeds?
We're not. Stop. I know the last episode was like.
It was the cat episode. No, we're talking about dog breeds.
Oh, dogs.
Dog breeds.
Yeah.
The problem with dog breeds?
I don't know. What?
Oh, you don't know this?
I know it's like that breeding is, like, apparently a really bad thing.
Okay, I'm gonna show.
Dog breeds aren't exactly, like, natural.
I'm gonna pause the recording. I'm going to show you a video. Then after this video, we're going to talk about this, okay?
Okay.
So we're going to pause and take a stretch. We'll be back. And you won't even notice the transition. It's crazy. And we're back!
That was horrible.
So what I just showed Rosser is a video, and it is made by College Humor. So that may be, oh, it's not real. It's actually, like, based on facts and stuff. I'm going to link it in the description because it's a great video. It explains it's basically... outside of working breeds, so we're talking like sheepdogs are a good example. Most dogs breeds are like fake and not real,
and just inbred, just gross.
So, because like I don't like it's sort of like if you ever you look at like labs and you're like I can't tell the difference between them. That's like because all of them are basically cousins in terms of genetic diversity, and that gets back to the thing. It's like there's when you look at a working breed like a sheepdog, there's different colors of sheepdog, but they're all still quote sheepdogs. So there's like, you know, different traits. But when you get to these dog breeds like golden retrievers, bulldogs, there's just not enough diversity to where they're these sick, disgusting animals, and you just want to give them a hug and a bone, and that's it. You know?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it's like, yeah, and I think a really interesting statistics is that like. A lot of these animals, because they're like bred the way they are, have like certain like I didn't know that so many golden retrievers died of cancer.
60% of Goldens die of cancer.
Yeah, that's absurd, and that's obviously like us caused.
It's also like when you look at golden retrievers, they all look the same. Mm-hmm. It's like, you know, when you look at families that inbreed and like, you know. People always make fun of Alabama for inbreeding and whatnot, but it's like...
Another southern state we're going to...
When you look at cases of inbreeding within families, especially over successive generations, people's like, oh, their kids are crazy. No, I mean, their kids may be crazy, but their kids are also, like, super sick.
Yeah.
And that's what we were doing to dogs. So
for sport, no less.
Yes.
Everyone around... Thanksgiving is like, oh, look at all these dogs who are going to die in like 2 years because of
my aunt and
problems we've condemned them to at birth.
My aunt and uncle stupidly put money down for a yellow lab.
Oh.
for like a yellow lab that hadn't been born yet. And I asked her, why'd you do that? You could have just gone to the shelter and said, because I put so much money on the back end, I decided to pay up front for it. I'm like, no, because you're just still going to pay all that money on the back end. So you're actually double in the hole. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And I said, it's like, why do you need a yellow lab? You can go to a shelter right now and pick out a dog. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. You get to pick it. You get to look at it. You don't have to get the bad one. You want the cool one? You get the cool one. You can see which one's the cool one.
You don't need to be like, oh, I want a cool corgi or whatever. You can just be like, I would like a cool dog. I would like a cool companion.
Yes.
Something.
Is your dog a whatever dog or?
No, she's a mutt.
Yeah. Ross's
and she's healthy, and she's eaten 3 whole things of Oreos on accident, and she's fine somehow.
How old is she?
God, how old is she now? Like, maybe 10?
Yeah, so, like, that's the other thing between pure breeds and, quote, quote, mutts and quote, quote, pure breeds. Mm-hmm. When you go towards the end of their lifespans, how they die is really different. So your quote unquote pure breeds, it's like they get arthritis and cancer and they just die terribly and they need to be put down. And you say, oh, that's normal. No, it's not normal. Yeah. Because you look at mutts need to be put down typically less than pure breed dogs. And mutts, they just die.
They tend to die of old age.
They just walk. No, it's like one night they just walk off and then you just find a dead dog. That's sad to think about, but
it's less sad than condemning it to cancer or something.
And like watching it suffer to breathe.
Yeah,
it's bad.
Bulldogs apparently have a life expectancy of 6 years, which is
like
depressing.
That's 42 in human years.
Yeah, oh my god.
That's like families that have a weird blood disease that kills them by the time they hit 42.
Yeah. Well, actually, most blood diseases kill you by like 12.
Yeah.
or earlier, because you have to go a lot of your life without getting accidentally cut at all, and then you do,
or like
and then you die.
Genetic cancers and stuff like that.
Pretty much.
And the way to weed out genetic cancers really is like over time.
Breed them out.
Yeah, breed them out.
Breed the bad traits out over time.
Yeah.
Really, just eventually, because otherwise they're going to stay within the families, which is why having the purebred thing is such an issue, because we keep breeding them with only their siblings and stuff.
You have it's like if you want your kids to have a lower chance of having genetic cancers, marry someone who doesn't have a history of genetic cancer. There's still a chance your kids will have it, but it's less than if you marry someone else with the risk of genetic cancer.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Nice.
So the end point is those of you who are mixed race couples, thumbs up. Your beautiful children will also be healthier than mine. Good job.
Right. The best.
Good job.
Fantastic.
Anything else you want to wrap up on? Any points you want to harp on?
Not really. Pretty good.
Let's talk about the 40 hours, and that'll bring us to the end.
I see.
So, in April,
we are doing a 4-part miniseries called "We Hate Ourselves."
A 40-hour
4-part miniseries.
A 40-hour experiment. We don't know what we're calling it, but so Rosser and I.
The name better be a 4-part miniseries. Band of Brothers or whatever it was.
So the way this is gonna work is we have a long weekend in April, and what's gonna happen is me, Rosser, potentially someone else, we will be staying up for 40 hours straight. During this 40 hours, we will be doing different things. But every 10 hours of the 40, we're going to be recording an episode of the podcast that'll last 30 minutes. So and I'm going to release them week by week after we do it. Mm-hmm. So it'll happen week by week. And each episode, we're going to get more tired, more and more incoherent. And what we'll be talking about is more and more complex. And I don't want to reveal too much what we'll be talking about in the episodes, but I do want to talk about the first episode, which is hour 10. During the first 10 hours of our stupid experiment, we're going to be binge watching one series on Netflix, and then that first episode will be a tired, exhausted review of that series. Mm-hmm. So right now we're leaning towards the Netflix remake of Richie Rich, a terrible looking children's series. So that's what we're leaning towards. But if you
have suggestions that are better, and I'm pretty sure you do,
of things we should binge watch, come up to us in the halls. Tell us.
Donate money. Tell us. Whatever.
Yeah.
Just say things.
And during the 40 hours, we're going to be taking pictures. We're going to be making videos. We're going to be doing all sorts of stuff, and I'm going to put those up in a Dropbox account, which I will give the people access to. But how do you get access to these videos, you may be asking? Well, if you go onto Patreon, I added a new reward tier, which is $1.01. And that's just so I can tell the difference between that and the $1 tier. But if you choose to donate $1.01, it's a limited tier, you will get full access to these exclusive videos and photos and journals and whatever else we create during this time. And it will be funny stuff, but you'll get exclusive access to this content. Conveniently, also, there's only 30 of the $1.01 levels available, because you know why, Rosser? If all of those are taken up, we will meet our first funding goal of having the podcast be free to produce. And that'll be very good.
Because, by the way, y'all, if y'all want this to keep happening, we need, like, money at some point. Like, I don't want to, like, put that pressure on y'all.
It is a cost to do.
It does cost to host this, and it does cost to do this. And
so we're not going to talk about this every week, but if you want to support us, a really great way to do that is on Patreon. Patreon.com/unwatchable. And you go there, you choose to donate $1.01 a month. You not only ensure that the show becomes free to produce and we can do it forever, but you also ensure that you're going to get some funny content created when we're very tired and stupid. And this content's never going to be released again. So get on that. Calls to action. I have another podcast. It's called Enough About Me. I interview some really interesting people. I have like 6 episodes up there right now. Damn. I do it weekly. I try to do it weekly at least.
Nice.
Yeah. Follow me at Holmes or Simpson. You can follow Rosser at Virum. And if you want a great way to support the show for absolutely zero money, a great thing to do is you can go onto iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. So your assignment is go into iTunes, give us a 5-star rating, and in your review, tell us what show we should binge watch on Netflix. If you give us 5-star reviews, the iTunes robots will pick us up easier, and then they'll promote the show for us for free, and then more people will listen to it. And you want to share Unwatchable with the world, right? So yeah, share us on social media. But the best way you can help us for zero money is give us a 5-star rating on iTunes.
And tell your friends to do the same thing.
And if you want to support the show for money, support us on Patreon for $1.01 to get exclusive content. And if you do both, you're the best person ever. Ever.
Yeah.
Better than, like, everyone, ever.
Pretty much.
Good job.
Thanks.
Except Martin Luther King and Abraham Lincoln.
Definitely. You're not better. You won't be better than those people.
They're the 2 best people.
You know now.
Yeah. Sorry. I won't. We won't either.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, they're pretty good people.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's it. It's been good.
Right.
See you on the next one.
Yep. See you.
See you in April. Oh God, I'm so scared.
No.